Peace, good afternoon, everybody. As much as I wanted to be here with you today to enjoy this implicit bias training, I'm totally unable to be physically there with you. But I want you to know that I'm there with you in spirit. As we really take a deep dive and look at implicit bias, specifically as it relates to students in temporary housing, this is that very important and brave work that we have to undertake, because implicit bias impacts many of our decisions. And one of the things that I learned is that it also impacts how we deliver services to our families. You can have some beliefs about homelessness, whether it's the fault of the family, whether they deserve certain services, whether they deserve certain supports, and those deeply suppressed beliefs that we try to stifle can really interfere with our effectiveness. So it's really important to deal with implicit bias, specifically with how we look at supporting homeless families. For example, one of the things that I'm aware of my own implicit bias is because of things that I've experienced in my own life, that they shape some of the reasons behind what I do. I was a young person who had many encounters with the system growing up as a young man in a public housing development. I'm actually in the community center where I grew up. I attended nursery school here, and I'm back today on Saturday. I facilitate a class here, a mentoring class here for young people. But there were certain lived experiences that I've had growing up, especially as a teenager in the public housing, that impacted my perception of systems. And as an adult, I now know that I try to overcompensate, and sometimes I could be overzealous in my support of other young people who've had identical circumstances. So what that might mean is that instead of empowering folks, I can enable them. Because I want people to feel empowered. I want them to learn by their experiences. And if I overcompensate because I over-identify because of my own implicit bias about certain systems, I can do more harm than good. So I'm aware of that. And through my own self-talk, when I'm working with families, it prevents me, that's my safety mechanism that prevents me from enabling as opposed to empowering. I also attended a middle school here in the newly integrated Canarsie that gave me some lived experiences about white folks. I would get chased home from school. The white folks, adults, parents, grandparents, they stood out there and they yelled at us for attending these schools. After the cameras went away, we would get chased home regularly by little 12, 13-year-old kids, would get chased home by tow trucks and cars, guys with bats. High school kids, older, with bats, were chasing home little kids, chasing us back to the projects. So because of that lived experience, anyone else dealing with racism, I might have a tendency to overcompensate because of the bias I experience and my own implicit bias against a segment of the population. So me being brave enough to admit it, me being brave enough to talk about it, puts me on the road to ensuring that it's not negatively interfering and that with my service delivery, and that it is that me being mindful of it ensures that I am still empowering those and not overcompensating, but empowering those who I come in contact with. So the implicit bias walk is a walk of bravery. It's a walk of honesty. And if you have no bias, if there's no implicit bias in your life that you need to work on, then you're not being honest. So what I hope that we accomplish over these next 3 sessions is an honest look at ourselves, at our practices, our firmly held beliefs, and really see if how we can make an adjustment to properly serve the young people who are entrusted to our care. So thank you for this journey, and let's get busy.